Gonna come up from the back of the fabric to make a really tiny straight stitch. Oh my God, I put too much lotion on and okay, let's try this again. Like I said, you're gonna come up through the back of the fabric to make a tiny straight stitch. And that's gonna help us start our first chain link. Because a chain stitch is really a number of chain links that go down a row or a line that link together to make a long chain. So we're gonna start with this little straight stitch that's gonna help us make our first chain stitch. So if you wanna go down 1/4 of an inch down this line, put your needle through the fabric, pull it through, and then we're not gonna put this needle back into the fabric. We're going to slip it underneath that first tiny stitch and pull that all the way through. Now it doesn't matter if you go down to up or up to down. It just needs to slip through that straight stitch. Now you don't wanna pull it too tight. If you pull it too tight, you get a really solid line. You wanna keep it a little bit loose so you get a little bit of a roundness to it. Then you're gonna put the needle back into that same hole you just came from. And it's important to get it in the same hole so you don't see any fabric showing through. And so that you pull that through very gently to try to keep that bubble look for your chain link. So that's our first chain link on this chain stitch. Now we're gonna go down another 1/2 of an inch, put the needle through the fabric, sorry, I meant 1/4 of an inch, and pull that through. Oh my gosh, do not lotion your hands before doing this. Okay, pull all the way through. Again, do not pull too tight. If you pull too tight, you're going to mess up this one. So I'm gonna show you if I pull too tight, see how it makes that first one tight as well, and it kind of looks just like a solid line. You can go back if you did that and use your needle to loosen it up a little bit and bring some of that thread back into that first stitch. I'm just gonna pull this a little bit. You can see that. So now I'm gonna take my needle and I'm going to slide it not underneath this first stitch. A lot of folks go back to that first stitch. You're not gonna do that for this stitch. We're going to take our needle and we're going to slide it underneath that first chain link. Put that all the way through. Again, creating a very soft roundness to this and not pulling it too tight. Then we're going to put our needle back into the hole where we just came from and pull gently. That's our second chain link. Do you see how, because I pulled too tight the first time, this is still kind of tight. This one's a little bit looser because I did not pull as much. We're going to jump up another 1/4 of an inch up this line. I don't know how to measure things. Pull the thread all the way through. Slide that needle under the last chain link you just made and gently pull it through. And we're just going to keep doing that all the way down this line. This thread got a little messed up here, but that's okay. We're just practicing. It doesn't need to look perfect. really want to try to keep these the same length if you can. That way the line looks a bit more uniform. And this thread that I'm using is really cheap thread, so it keeps creating these like weird pieces of thread that aren't really coming through all the way. It's because I'm using like really cheap thread from, I think, like Michael's. No shade to Michael's. I love Michael's, but sometimes that generic Michael's brand thread is not it. Yeah, this is really bad thread. Okay, there we go. And then the last stitch for this chain stitch is going to just end in the same hole and then we're going to end there. And then you're just going to tie up the thread in the back of your piece like you normally do for any of your embroidery projects. Now I'm going to go ahead and stitch a second row so I can show you a variation on a chain stitch called a whipped chain stitch. We now have 2 rows of chain stitches. We have our first practice row and our second practice row. And with our second practice row, we're going to jazz things up a little bit and we're going to whip that chain stitch. And what that means is we're going to take another piece of thread and we're going to wrap that thread around each individual stitch to give it a fun, unique look. You could use the same purple color, but we're going to use this fun neon green because I love neon colors. We're going to start with the needle going into the fabric at the end of our last chain stitch in about the same hole, and we're going to pull that all the way through. This needle is not going to go back into the thread until we get all the way to the end here. So we're going to take this needle and pick a direction, either up to down or down to up to down or down to up. We're not switching it up. It has to be in the same direction every time to get that whipped feel. That kind of ends up looking a little bit like a candy cane. And I'm going to go up to down. So I'm going to start up to down. That's our first whip. Go back up to down. Oh my gosh. I don't know why I think I can do this with these nails. And then we're going to do the next stitch up to down. Now, an important thing for all of these stitches, the chain stitch, the whip stitch, and everything else we're going to do, one, don't pull too tight. 2, make sure you get the needle underneath all of these fibers, because there's a couple instances up here where I got caught on a fiber and didn't get underneath it. But you can see this needle is under all of the fibers. And pull that all the way through. And now we're going to do it again. See, I almost missed a fiber there, so I'm going to go back, make sure I got all of them. Great. And now we're going to finish that by putting it into the last one. Ta-da! And that is a whipped chain stitch. Pretty cute, huh? We've got our third row of chain stitches. We got our first practice chain stitch, we got our whipped chain stitch, and now we're going to do a double whipped back stitch. And you can imagine what that means. It means we're going to whip this stitch 2 times instead of 1. So we're going to start at the end with, we're going to use that same green, come up through the fabric, and I'm going to pick again down. Wait, what did I do last time? Up to down. I'm going to pick up to down. So did I? I did. Up to down. So up to down. Up to down. Up to down. Good Lord, these nails. Okay. Up to down. Again, make sure you get the needle under all of those fibers. Right here. Okay, so we got another whipped chain stitch. Great. Now we can whip this again with the same color, but let's mix things up here. Cut off our thread, and we're going to introduce this really pretty blue. So we're going to double whip this with this blue. When we double whip, we're not going in the same direction, which was up to down. We're going to go down to up. Start at the first stitch, pull that thread all the way through, and now last time we were going up to down, up to down. Now we're going to go down to up. Make sure you get underneath all those fibers. Pull that all the way through, and I think I did not get under all the fibers. And then we're going to go down to up on the next one. Oh, it's a little tricky when you have so much thread in the mix now. Down to up. Ooh, and then, oh, you see, I got it caught on a piece of thread here. Down to up, down. Oop, wait. Oh, I got it. Oh, okay. Get all of the fibers. There we go. Down to up. Yeah. And you can see what this is doing is it's kind of creating this braid look. So we've got 3 colors creating a braided look, and that is a double whipped chain stitch. And you see this line is very thick and solid now. And we're going to end this stitch by putting the needle in that same hole where we ended the purple and the green. Pull that all the way through and tie it off like you normally do. So that is your double chain stitch using 2 colors. You could have double chain stitch using the same, either all the same colors, 2 colors, or 3. We've got our first chain stitch, our whipped chain stitch, our double whipped chain stitch, and now we're going to do a partially whipped chain stitch for this row. This row looks raggedy as hell because this thread is so bad. But I do not have the patience and time to do this over again. So we are just gonna roll with it. So a partially whipped chain stitch just whips either the top part of the chain stitch or the bottom part of the chain stitch. So we're going to do the bottom part. I'm going to put the needle in the fabric at the beginning or end of this chain stitch rather. There we go. Pull that all the way through. And I'm going to go up to down, just whipping the bottom half of this. So I'm going to go up to down, up to down, making sure to get the needle under all of the fibers. See, it's only wrapping the bottom half of the chain stitch. And final one. Boom. Done. There we go. That is a partially wrapped chain stitch. Now you could partially wrap the top part with the same color or a different color and just have the bottom half one color wrapped and the top half a different color wrapped. Think about it. Try it. We now have a regular practice chain stitch. We have a whipped chain stitch. We have a double whipped chain stitch, and we have a partially whipped chain stitch. And now it's time to move on with our lives and do something different. So now we are going to do a laced chain stitch. And a laced chain stitch just kind of weaves the thread up and down and up and down. Unlike the whipped chain stitches where I said you have to go in the same direction over and over and over and over and over again, this is the opposite. We are going to go up, then down, then up, then down, then up, then down, all the way through this chain stitch. To mix things up, I'm going to use another color. I'm going to bring this blue back, and we're going to start at the end of this chain stitch, pulling the thread all the way through the fabric. It's not going to go back into the fabric again until the end. So I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to start up to down, pull that through gently. Then for the next one, I'm going to go down to up. Again, making sure to get underneath all those fibers. So down to up, gently. And you want to make sure you could see it. So pull it back through if you can't see that lace. There we go. All right. Then we're going to go, the next one is going to be up to down. All right. And then we're going to go down to up. Oh, I didn't get underneath all the fibers. I'm going to try it again. There we go. That's better. And then up to down. Down to up. Tricky part is when you are adding these embellishments to your stitches is not interfering with the other stitches that you did. And then up to down. And that's going to be the end of our laced chain stitch. And I'm going to put the needle right here. Put that through. And that is a laced chain stitch. You can see how it's different when you are going in the same direction versus alternating directions. We got our chain stitch, our whipped chain stitch, our double whipped chain stitch, our partially whipped chain stitch, and then we moved on to a laced chain stitch, and now let's try a backstitched chain stitch. We are going to use a regular backstitch on top of this chain stitch. And if you haven't done a backstitch before, I suggest you go find my video on my backstitch sampler. We're going to start with the needle going into the middle of one of our first chain stitch, actually. Right in the middle of that bubble. We're going to pull that through. We're going to now place the needle in the middle of the next chain stitch down that row. And that's going to create the start of our back stitch over the chain stitch. Now we're going to jump forward like we do for back stitches. We're going to jump forward, put the needle in the center of the next chain stitch, pull that through gently, and then we're going to dump it back into the last hole we created for that back stitch, just like we do with back stitch. Push that through, pull it through gently, and now we have our second back stitched chain stitch. Go up and forward again into the middle of the next chain link, pull that through gently, put the needle in the fabric into the end of that last back stitch, and now we've got a third one. And we're going to keep going down the row. Just find that middle. Sometimes it might be a little bit challenging, but find that middle of that chain link, pull it through gently, not super tight, and dump it into the end of the last back stitch. All right, and then we're going to finish this off right here. We don't go to the ends of these. You can if you want to. I usually don't. But now we're gonna, I haven't been showing it here, but you wanna make sure you tie this off in the back of your fabric before cutting your thread so that it doesn't unravel. But this is our backstitched chain stitch. All right, all together now, we got a chain stitch, we got a whipped chain stitch, we got a double whipped chain stitch, we got a partially whipped chain stitch, we have a laced chain stitch, we have a backstitched chain stitch, and we are on our last row for this video, and that's going to be a wrapped chain stitch. Now, I don't know if that is the right name for this stitch. I can't find a name for it anywhere, but if you know the name for this stitch, please tell me, put it in the comments, and I will update this video accordingly. But until then, I'm calling it a wrapped chain stitch. What it's going to do is it's going to wrap the bottom, the base, or the bottom of each of these chain stitches. I'm going to start at the end of my row of chain stitches, pull the needle all the way through, pull the needle underneath the first chain link. It doesn't matter for this one if you go up or down or up or alternate. It really doesn't matter. Pull it all the way and then put the needle back in that hole. So what it's doing is it's gently hugging the bottom of the base of that chain link. I'm going to go up to the bottom, right underneath the bottom of the next chain link. Push the needle through, pull it all the way through, and then slide it underneath that chain link. Pull it through gently. Put the needle into that same hole I just came from. Push needle through and gently pull it to gently hug the base of that chain link. I'm going to do that again, going down and hugging each chain link on this row of chain stitches. We're going to finish up with this last one here. Pull that through. Slide underneath that chain link. Pull the thread gently through. And pull it back down in the same exact hole. And now we have a row of gently hugged or wrapped chain stitches. Now you've got a whole bunch of options to choose from. I encourage you to play around, try different color schemes, try different color variations, decide what goes best for your stitching. Have fun and happy stitching!